This is episode 38. Okay.
Yes.
Hello, and welcome to episode 38 of the Foam News Collective podcast. I'm KT. I'm here with Vile and Grimz. Say what's up, y'all.
Hello.
What's up?
We've been busy cranking on the next episode, and the last episode was so funny because so many things dropped sort of like right at the top of right at release time for the episode. The new Nerf Pro
I swear
stuff,
you were
which
like
we're going to
going
talk about
bad
later
when
today.
one came out.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was.
Yes, I was. I had like come home from Pokemon League.
I think we all were going to bed.
Yeah, and people were asking about this. I actually, in our Discord, I just posted a link to an episode of a podcast called 16th Minute of Fame, which I really recommend. Jamie Loftus, it's part of the Cool Zone Media world, and she did this like mini episode because she had like an interview left over from a recent episode, and the episode was about the giant hot dog that was in Times Square, but it was this conversation that got into talking about like AI art and how it's like people can make these bizarre things like a giant hot dog. Or I mean, a bunch of people, when Stable Diffusion first became sort of like generally accessible, were making like weird Nerf blasters in AI art, and it's like we have people in our community who make stuff at least that weird in the real world. In fact, we have one on the podcast today, but we'll get to Domo in a second. We have people physically making objects at least that bizarre, and like it's fun to mess around with the AI thing, but like don't do it in a way that's drawing away from the like real work that's going on. And so I really recommend this interview just in terms of understanding why when something drops like that at the last second, we are not freaking out about covering it that episode. If we had rushed to put the new Nerf Pro blasters on episode 37, the amount of information that we would have and how complete that story would have been like nothing. Because all we had was the two leak pictures at the time. And I think it's great that a lot of YouTube channels jump to do like speculation videos and like, here's what I think about this and here's what it kind of looks like. And I know that you'll want to know about this, but that's not really our role, at least as I see it in the ecosystem here. Our role is to gather all the information that we can and put out as complete of a picture as possible. And now that the leak of those images started the released the embargo on information about Nerf Pro, we have all this other info, and then other brands also like announced or like leaked other Pro blasters, and so now there's a much bigger picture for us to report on. So we're never going to be in a rush to be the first to cover a story. That's just not what we do.
I've also noticed just like anytime we've done speculation, because sometimes we'll get like a leak and it's just a listing and we won't have anything but that for like the next 4 months or whatever. Sometimes I see that speculation, they'll be like, oh, F and C said this, and they just assume we had like some inside information or just ran with it. And it's like, if you watch the video, that's not at all what we said, but they just like heard some speculation and then ran with it. And it's just like, had that happened with like, for example, something like as big as Nerf Pro, that wouldn't have exactly been great. Like,
it's dangerous.
Come like a couple days later when we get all the more information. So it's just something we have to be very cognizant of and careful with, even what we say speculation wise, even if it's not like officially about the news. And so
absolutely, I think that we've made a conscious effort to pull as much speculation and for the most part opinion out of the show, because that's just not the job that we're trying to do with the show. And I think it's confusing if we start to incorporate that stuff. So I'd rather be late and right, which is kind of how we roll most of the time. I also wanted to, because I don't think it's going to make us on this episode. Well, no, actually, I guess we can talk about that later, because we're going to be talking a lot of design today. So I definitely want to get into the fact that Vile has been designing some stuff lately.
Yes.
And I want to lean on that a little bit. But the focus here, oh my God. Okay, hold on. We're about to get like a big storm, and I need to close this window because it's going to be really loud. Okay, I did it. Really excited to have a storied designer of blasters, some of the more unusual, I think, and and mechanically complex and fascinating designs that we have coming out of our hobby right now. Domochevsky, thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you doing this? It's night for you right now, I believe.
Hello, folks. It is currently 22:34, so the sun is about to go down right now.
That's 10:34 in America time for anyone wondering.
Shameful, but yes.
10:24 p.m.
Could you only afford a clock with 12 numbers?
We could only afford the 12. I'm sorry.
Oh my god.
Inflation stole the other ones.
We're really excited to have you on today. You've had a lot of cool stuff coming out recently. The first lever action reskin of the X-Shot Micro, which has become kind of your signature series to a lot of people. But before we even get into that stuff, I always like to start when we have someone on the podcast for the first time with a little bit of your background.
Oh no!
What else? Do you, well, you don't have to dive into too many deep dark secrets here, but what else do you do? How did you get started in the hobby? That kind of stuff.
Well, let's start there. I am a software developer by trade, and at the time, like 2019-ish was the year, Anno Domini, I was working at a little startup, and they had 3D printers, Ultimakers. And the guy who maintained them was like, when we're not using them in downtime, you can use them. And I go, and I said, good, I will accept this. I'm okay with this. I shall make use of your offer, good sir. And then I did. And they said, not like this. just in the evenings, I was like running over like on my bicycle, just getting in there. I had a key. All right, nothing in here. Let's go. The night is mine. And well, also 2019 is the first time I got into Nerf.
I was gonna say, what kind of stuff are you printing initially? Or is that when you started doing Nerf designs?
First I was printing stuff off of Thingiverse with like Nerf modification stuff, like rails and attachments and this and that. And at some point I said to myself, you know what, this ammunition capacity, I don't like that. That is not enough for me. Why are these magazines so small? And so I committed my first crime and made the chain slug.
And I remember the initial videos and seeing that before, sort of like a lot of us knew who you were. I was just like, what is this? What is going on here? Like, what?
Yeah.
Who is this person making this bizarre?
I remember the first impression I got was Mad Scientist, and I think someone had described you as that, essentially, from what I can recall. This must have been like 2020, 2019, somewhere in there.
Yeah, late 2019, like early 2020 is when I made 6 of them and sent them to Captain Xavier. Like with a letter, like spread them across the world like a disease. Like this person, this person, this person, this person, and you get one of them. And Xavier made an amazing video with it. And if he hadn't made that video and be as positive as he was, I would not be here now, I suspect.
Is that the one? Is that the one where he converted? He like used it to make. I
think
one
he
of
did
his...
like I think he put Ire like his Stampede, and I think it like broke the chain because it fired too fast or something. I can't remember.
It did not fire too fast at the time, but no, it used a optical sensor to detect whether a dart is on the top. So any sort of like visible light shining into the top of the blaster just confused it. So
gotcha.
he had to put like this hand on top of it so it would like be dark inside of there. So it worked reasonably well. Like Xavier got one, Barrett got one, Bevy, who looked at it with this vague disdain and then never talked about it again. Drak got one. It broke right on camera, which lovely.
Of course. Oh, I think I remember that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
An
didn't.
auspicious start. An auspicious start for sure.
Yeah, just lovely.
Well, so I think
Alright.
you've kind of made a name for yourself with really outlandish designs, like very sort of like technical, very technical designs, which I think is one of the things that's beautiful about this hobby. You know, some people are refining the primary class pump action Springer, and you're kind of really out here being like, here's a bizarre idea, let's just make it happen. What's your sort of philosophy behind sort of pushing into the extremities of what's possible with 3D filament and hardware?
Well, kind of multiple things. Like, one is I really like Lego and mechanical engineering. Point two is there are a lot of people making like MagFed pump action stringers, and I have nothing to offer in that field. So I don't even try. Like, there's nothing I can add to that.
Do you think that for you the process of engineering and designing and coming up with solutions to problems that you invent for yourself is as much the point as the final product?
Kinda, yeah. Like
Yeah.
watching the gears turn and the mechanisms do their thing, and then that comes out on the other end. It's nice.
Yeah.
It's pleasant.
Other than, you know, I built one of the first X-Shot Micro Reach skins, but other than that, I have the Trilogy
Right, yes.
auto feeder, it's the one that that went to American Foam.
Yes.
And Axel Sorax, our Discord moderator, picked it up and gifted it to me, and I got to show it off to people at Maryland Mayhem this last year, and it's
nice.
just like, it's really fun because I display it with the gears on the back, and then when people ask about it, I turn it around and they're like, what? Because like a lot of people, you know, haven't seen it in that much detail and haven't gotten to see it up close, and it's like, it really is a like bizarre, like mechanical marvel to see that kind of stuff.
It's like clockwork or clock making.
Yeah,
basically.
it looks
it's
like
the gear systems and stuff that go along with this.
It looks like something you'd see in like someone's like steampunk like artwork or whatever, and that has like this weird shotgun that's converted to do all this stuff. And I mean, that is what it is for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. It was also a complete commercial failure. Like right after I finished making it, Hasbro stopped making the trilogy.
Like, right, that doesn't help. That does not help.
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool, thanks.
Well, I mean, you know, clockwork is an interesting reference too, because I know that you often describe your work as like a lot of your mainline blasters sort of have a backstory, right?
Yes.
And you've described it as sci-fi western, which, you know, I think for a lot of people, they think steampunk, and so, you know, kind of mentioning the gear thing sort of ties into that. I mean, do you identify with that at all? Because I feel like I see a lot more sci-fi than steampunk in your designs, but I'm curious how you look at it, or like what your inspirations are for having that kind of backstory.
Yeah, like steampunk does not have like glowing sleek line blasters.
It's very true. That's very true.
Like it is exposed gears, yes, but the name gives steam. There's none of that. Like, there are none of the pipes and the bronze fittings. Like, yes, there are gears, sure, but no, it is science fiction what we're doing here.
Yeah, the shape's almost like the only like of the punks, the only thing that like really felt comparable, and that's mostly just due to the bulky like shapes of them, would be like diesel punk. But even then, it's just very overtly sci-fi in how they are, you know. And
yeah.
They have their own sort of space they occupy, I guess, artistically.
Yes, a future in which German trains must run on time. but also more blasters need to glow. Like tell the world, add more lights.
I don't disagree with you. If there's a power source on there, a couple LEDs is not taking anything meaningful away from that. Yeah. No, I love that aspect. I love that aspect of your work for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What's I want to talk about the X-Shot micro reshells a bit, but before we do that, because I have a clever segue planned. What's next? What are you thinking of? What are you working on for your next designs?
Which one do I start with?
I've seen a couple of them.
Pick your favorite.
Yeah.
Okay, Vile, you pick your favorite.
Oh, that's a tough one though, because honestly, the quad mega, giant blaster is probably one of the more interesting ones.
Right.
There is another one, obviously, though, that
Wait, sorry, quad mega, is this because I know that you've done the like flywheeler that shotguns.
Yes, my first blaster design, the rail cleaner.
Right. And is this mega thing like that, or is this
basically, yeah. Plus,
just bigger?
Bigger, drum fed, shell ejecting, the
it's
usual
ridiculous.
works.
Yeah, it is. I've seen some video of it actually, like in testing, so it's quite impressive to see.
Yeah.
I also kind of hate it right now. Like,
you go through a phase like that, right? I mean, like how long? Obviously, some of your projects are big and some of your projects are small. But when you have like a larger sort of like mainline blaster like this, how long is your process usually? Like, do you have to set things aside and not think about them for a while and then come back to it later?
Yeah, that's often the case. Like, I try to limit myself to like 4 or 5 concurrent projects, so I can like hop from one to the other when I'm like hitting a snatch somewhere, just getting stuck, or being dissatisfied with some aspect of it. So I can like let it rest and just marinate in the back of my brain for a bit. And there's also the sheer size of some of these blasters. Like small stuff, like a micro reshell, easy, quick, fast. But this big mega quad shotgun, that's gonna take a while. Like the Mega Gatling is still not finished. Like the core systems are finished. So
on top of problem solving, there's just all of the geometry that has to get built. There's just a lot of it.
Yeah, right? Which is kind of the other half. Like the 90% of the blaster is the core mechanics, and the other 90% is making it pretty.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
it's important to put in your whole 180% though.
Yeah, absolutely. But it also kind of illustrates like how much work that is. Like you think you're done. It's like, there's a little bit left. No, I just have to make it. No. Now comes the other half of the work.
Right.
And the detail work is really difficult too. That small details, and especially once you've learned all of those internal mechanics, because especially yours with how the gears or yoke systems or whatever they are, I'm sure trying to make that pretty or trying to put something around it, or do you want to display it, or how are you going to run LEDs? I'm sure all of that really gets much more complicated when you really start, once you've gotten to the mechanical point figured out.
Yeah. It is also harder to keep the brain engaged because the main thing is satisfied, the mechanics. But I actually want to put this out like as a product for people to like enjoy and get. So I have to knuckle down and actually finish it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the shape of a blaster presents itself, and other times you really have to dig to find it.
So, do you, when you've started doing these X-Shot micro reshells, so I know that, initially there was the conductor's revolver, which was how many micros?
7.
Was it? It was
7,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And as I understand it, that was sort of the kicking off point to be like, oh, well, I could just do individual ones. And I love that they just utilize the hardware that's in the original blaster. That's just the screws get reused. It's so clever. Has that become sort of a respite from your larger designs? Like if you're frustrated with a larger one, do you go like, maybe I'll just go make another X-Shot micro reshell and clear my brain and then come back to this?
Kinda. Like, these micro reshells are a testing ground for mechanics.
It's
like before I want to commit to something like big and figure out does this actually work, putting it into a micro that's a lot smaller project.
Right.
Just because they must be lean. They are just the core system itself.
Right. Well,
so,
and the most recent one was lever action. And is this your first experiment with lever action? I can't think of something else, but maybe I just don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. So was this sort of your opportunity to be like, okay, let me try this. I'll figure this out, and maybe then you can use it in something bigger later.
Yeah. That's basically how this works.
Yeah. I wonder. My instinct is that. I mean, I think that you were talking about the chain mag as, how people came to know you, but I also feel like the fact that the X-Shot micros, it's sort of the first, because your blasters are so impressive and bizarre and large and complicated. I feel like has been sort of more accessible to a wider variety of people, right? Like if they want to buy one from Maritime Foam, it's cheap. If they want to build one themselves, it's a very accessible project because you don't have to source hardware and you don't have to. And I think that's super clever. And I feel like it's made you more of a household name, which is great, right? Like it's advertising. In addition to being a cool product, it's kind of advertising for you. Like just more people are going to see it because it's so much more accessible.
It's also like filling a niche in my portfolio, as it were. Like for a while, I was just making the biggest stuff I have and the most expensive stuff because shipping across the ocean, that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like pondering, I need something small in my catalog. What can I possibly put there? And on a whim at a local shop, I saw the micro and was like, what is actually like, oh no, this thing is beefy. Like, this is a full plunger system without me just having to do anything with it. I just need to drop it into something. Let's do that.
They could be you could get them for quite cheap. I've seen them at thrift stores, secondhand shops for 25 cents to 50 cents for these things too. So they are so cheap. Yeah, you can get them quite cheap here, especially in the States.
I even see them brand new at like Dollar Generals, and you can get like a 2-pack for like a few dollars most of the time.
Yeah.
So they're even though, they now, I think they're phasing the micro out, but there's still just so many of them out there. I think they're going to continue to be available for a while.
Yeah. It was a fairly affordable product. It's easy to assume that they probably ran a number of them like batches wise with people purchasing them, so there's probably going to be plenty out held for a long time. And
they made them in a bunch of colors and stuff, so they're still kicking around. I still see the red ones pop up every now and then. I feel like those just barely started to exist before they canceled the product. The other, I screwed up my own segue because I also really wanted to ask you. You mentioned shipping these things overseas. We haven't actually mentioned, for anyone that doesn't already know, Domochevsky lives in Germany. And what's the local scene like there? Like, is there a local scene for you to be involved in? Do you get to Nerf with other people in person?
Local, what?
Well, so it's funny because we had we talked to Lidl. I'm just saying Lidl at this point. Bruce. And there was a similar situation. Is that just the situation in Europe? I mean, is that just how it is?
I mean, we live in Germany, both of us, including Wurstwerfer, Fettwurst, who's my Widowmaker, and somehow we managed to be as far away from any sort of Nerf event in Germany as possible.
Yeah.
Like just imagine like 3 points in Germany, and all of them are the furthest points away on a triangle. Just all the Nerf events are in the south-ish, and I'm as far north as possible, and I think so is he, just west instead of east.
On the other side? Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's tough. But there is a scene in Germany. It's just not.
Sure.
It's just not near you.
Yeah.
Not in your part of Germany.
Yeah, like I am not part of that scene. I am nowhere near that scene. Also,
Yeah.
that scene is kind of more into LARPing, which is its own thing.
It is its own thing, but I think a lot of your designs would be very at home in the right LARP setting.
Yeah.
You know, it just depends on how you color them and what the storyline is and how it fits.
Also, the German market is more critical, quote unquote. So I had I think a total of 5 people so far buying from me in Germany. So
fascinating.
Really I am more known in the US than in Germany. Because also there are local forums for this.
Yeah.
Which, yes, these people hang out in forums, which should tell you about the technological advancements over here. And there's a Discord server that is used by 3 people. So I don't want to post all my stuff on a forum. I don't.
Right.
I don't have that in me anymore. I did that in the early 2000s.
It's an experience.
Yeah, very fun. I remember. I feel that not wanting to go back to the old forum setup.
Yeah.
It's an experience that belongs in a specific era. I do like on the FNC Discord we now use FNC's or Discord's forum function, which is not really like a classic forum, but we use it for news stories specifically, and it's been really good. But I would not want all of our communication to be in that format by any means.
No.
Yeah.
And also,
let conversation moments happen and go away.
Yeah. Also, Discord is terrible for searching. You cannot find anything.
I definitely I have to do certain kinds of searches on certain things are better on mobile and some things are better on the phone.
Yeah.
I definitely find myself sometimes sitting at my computer and wanting to find something in the Discord and picking up my phone to search for it, and then I can find it, and then I have to link myself to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not ideal, but I find the benefits outweigh the downsides.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say, Grim?
I've also just unfortunately gotten very proficient at finding this kind of stuff just because I've been using the platform so long at this point. So it's just been I don't even think about it, but I'm like, damn, this is actually takes an extensive amount of time. If you didn't know what you were doing, you would probably spend ages just scrolling through messages to find something, unless you really know how to be searching for that stuff. And
sometimes I have this situation where I know what to look for, what text to look for, and which conversation is find it. I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing here. No, I know this is here. Show it to me. I don't know. Okay, then I asked 10 minutes later, hey, we found the thing. What do you mean? Why?
Okay, I want to pick up my segue from before, which I successfully dropped. But
well done.
We're gonna move into the questions that we have from our Ko-Fi supporters. If you are interested in supporting the Foam News Collective financially, dear listeners, you should check out our Ko-Fi, where you can subscribe for. I still have not changed it, so a subscription of any amount allows you to ask each of our podcast guests a question that we will force them to answer.
Oh no.
And there's some other perks too. That there's a little private chat room which we mostly use to gather questions. But other stuff can happen in there, I suppose. And some other stuff no one uses. But we do have some questions from our Ko-Fi supporters today for Domochevsky, and the first one sort of ties into our discussion of the X-Shot Micro reshells. Colin of Go Slow Taco asks, are there any other blasters that you've been experimenting with as the next platform to build off of?
I have been...
we were talking about the X-Shot Micro seems to be on its way out, so...
Yeah, I don't see it happening anytime soon, but I've been side-eyeing the Menace, which is, it is ideally what makes a good, reshell. You want something that's small, that's powerful, that is cheap, and ideally you get to pick more than 2 of those, and then you can harvest from it. And so far the Micro is this ideal storm of all of these traits, and I hope the Menace will also do that. But I have yet to see anything from other brands to help out with that. Certainly not Nerf.
Yeah. No, the Menace is great. I'm a fan of it in general. I mean, I know, it's held together with screws. That's an important
Yes. Like
aspect of this.
having hardware to work with is also kind of important.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know what else. It would be cool to see people do like reshells of the Dart Zone Solo, sort of a next power step up. But the Dart Zone Solo is obviously nowhere as cheap or as available as an X-Shot Micro or a Menace for that matter.
Yeah, like what does a Solo cost even?
It's like 20
United
USD.
States about.
Jeez.
Yeah.
You can get like 100 micros for those.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the cheapest were at 15 USD for a time, and then they bumped up on their price to closer to 20.
Yeah.
Eesh. Yeah, no, that's.
Yeah, it's a little. I mean, it'd be cool for someone to do that design, right? But it's also like the Solo in some ways is already sort of like what you do to reshell another blaster. Like, oh, I gave it like a folding thing, and people have like the Out of Darts has the thing to put their attachments on, and there's already sort of serves that purpose, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas your reshells like give new cosmetics and new concepts to them. I gotta build the lever action one actually.
Yes, you should.
I should. Does it? I haven't looked at it in detail. Would it fit on a 180 millimeter print bed?
The lever action one. No.
Is the lever too long?
No, the main shell pieces. Well, actually, if you angle it, it might work.
All right, I'll have to look at it.
But yeah, it's gonna be tight. Like
someday, it's ridiculous because I do have a larger printer. I picked up one of the old one of Captain Slug's old printers for the museum, and it's functional, or it's supposed to be functional. I just have not had a second to power it on and try to do anything with it. So one of these days. Ghost Armory asks, what is one design concept you love to use and one that you hate to use?
Design concept. Well, lights.
I
like lights. I like gears.
You like lights. Yes.
You know.
Lights and gears. That's a two for Ghost. You got two instead of just one that he loves to use.
Things I don't like to use.
What do you avoid? What is the thing that you're like designing something and you're like, oh, I could do this. I don't want to do that. And you just go a different direction.
Probably plungers. Like, I have not had success making any sort of plunger system on my own. Just nothing. Just with a flywheeler, you have the wheels, you have individual components, you put a dart in, whoop, it is gone. Nice.
Yeah.
With plunger systems, you have to think about sealing and how to make like the right shapes and diameters and O-rings and what have you. And I'm already bored. It's like...
It's funny because I think that there's a sense of like some people have this sense of like, you gotta understand both worlds or else you're not a real nerfer or a real modder. And it's like...
No true Scotsman.
Flywheels, right, exactly. Flywheel systems and plunger systems are such completely different beasts. And then there's so many other ways to propel darts too. I think it makes perfect sense for anyone as a designer or even just as a player or a builder or a modder to specialize in one or the other. It's also sick when you can do multiple, but like there's no real reason that you should have to specialize in everything.
Yeah. I mean, having a wide understanding of how all of this works is good. It lets you combine things. And I still have these like knockoff Vortex discs here that I try to do things with. They are so bad. Because I want to make something with Vortex at some point. But you cannot find any of that, and you need ammunition that is available, you know? Yeah. Exotic parts are not useful. So...
Right.
But I recently was given a what is it called? A spin shot. You know, the one with the pump action.
They
use these
the spin
rings.
shot.
Yes.
I love the spin shot. I gave it a glowing review because I love it.
And
so
I'm gonna make something that's full auto with these.
Oh, you're beating me to this because I was trying to see if I could make a motor driven version that wasn't pump action instead. I was trying to I've already designed. I need to put it on printables. I have designed the actual replacement ammo for people to print their own, and I haven't actually tested it to see how it prints.
Yeah,
I'd be curious to see how they function in like TPU or something too, because
softer material.
The discs do okay. Like I had my kids shoot me with them when I first got them. If you get hit with that at a distance, it's fine. Like it's totally fine. They're just so light and they move so slow. It's kind of like Vortex, where it's like the most effective way to use it. I think the way that I've always wanted to use Vortex or discs like that is where there's like a cloud of those with like an underslung blaster, and then you shoot darts through the cloud. And now, how are you supposed to dodge that?
Yeah, you just
there's like a bunch of slow moving floaty stuff, and then you're being shot at through it, and you got to dodge all of it.
Yeah. Also, I'm considering making trip mines with these.
Oh my god!
I'm
here for it too. That's a good one.
Just this like sudden cloud filling the corridor, bouncing off the walls. Like good luck.
Now, if you did something like that and you made it laser tripped, you might actually have some success with people who run clubs being willing to let them be used.
Yeah, it's kind of
because I know that the big thing that people are always concerned about is actual tripping hazards.
Yeah.
But it would be so cool if it was just like electric and just like laser activated, and you could just put it in a hallway around a corner, and someone who's running through the hallway has to see the little dot on the wall. Otherwise they'll walk through it and just get hit with a bunch of those. That'll be kind of amazing.
I mean, of course, reasonably speaking, you're not going to make anything like laser tripped. You're probably going for like IR sensors that are like distance measure things.
Right.
Because
right, or of course, yeah. You can't. Well, I mean, I think the thing might be. No, I see what you mean. Yeah, the technology, obviously, because if it was laser, it'd have to be a receiving unit on the other side, and it would have to.
If it's sonar, there are these little small shields you can get that have a little sonar on it that does measure distance, because it will measure if some. It's basically just getting a reading of how close something is to it, and if you step in that line, it would just get a spike on that, and it could trip it. That could work.
Just use the Lego Mindstorms distance detector.
Yeah.
I forgot about Mindstorm. That's been a minute. I had one of the kits.
I have the brain box because I found it at the Goodwill outlet, actually.
I have a few of them. So I have so little time right now. I'm leaning a little bit back into Lego. My wife actually came in here into my office today because there some K-pop act that she's really into had a video, and one of the here's the tangent of the century. You ready for this? South Korea has mandatory military service, and so all the K-pop idols have an era where they have to go off and serve their time in the military. And it's usually like right in the middle of their peak career, just because of the age you're expected to do it at. And so one member of this group is in the military, and so he actually plays in the military band, I guess, but he's unable to appear in any videos. But he like recorded parts for a bunch of songs before he left, and so they represented him in this video with a little sailor minifigure. And at the end of the video, there's a shot of the whole group made in Lego. And she immediately wanted to find all the pieces because it was actually built with existing pieces. And so we started looking, I showed her Bricklink and like how to search for stuff and how to find things. She's really good at it. And anyone else that's a Lego person, I know that there's a lot of overlap between Lego and Nerf. You know how searching for parts on Bricklink can be, especially like specific printed minifig parts. We found a good amount of it in our collection, but we don't have a lot of it. Whoever built it is apparently really into Harry Potter Lego, and it's because a lot of the minifig parts came from specific older Harry Potter sets. Anyway, I swear I was tying this back somehow to what we were talking about.
Still waiting for it.
Well, anyway, whatever. I guess I'm not tying it back to whatever we talked about.
Hey,
thanks for telling us about the design concepts that you hate using.
Yeah, point is, spin shot trip mines. IR sensors or sonar, I guess, which I should look into because
we were talking about Mindstorms. We were talking about Mindstorms. That's what it was, Mindstorms.
Oh, jeez.
It was still somehow related. Anyway.
Was it though?
I don't know.
Listen, maybe. Anyway, so Nathani, who was our... Oh, okay. We have one more question. And it's from Nathani, speaking of...
Okay.
Well, we didn't speak about it on the podcast. Anyway. Wow. Reset.
How are you a podcast host? Focus, man. Stay on track.
I'm doing all right.
Uh-huh.
On this podcast, we play a trivia game, which we're going to subject you to in a little bit. But one of the side effects of that is if the guest is able to get 2 out of 3 of our trivia questions right, a person randomly selected from a raffle on our Discord gets to ask our next podcast guest a question for free. Normally, you have to back our Ko-Fi in order to do that. And the winner of the last raffle was Nathani. And Nathani asks, if there were any official Nerf blaster that you could redo in your own signature style, which one would it be, and what features or gimmicks would you add to it?
If I did my thing with one of the official ones, would it still be recognizable as
or
official?
just started from an official design and sort of like redid it in your style, maybe?
What are the current shotgun blasters? Are there any?
There's the current N-Series one. It's not really a shotgun so much as it fires one N-Series dart at a time, but it's like shotgun-esque.
Pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, the most recent thing that comes to mind is they have the Smart AR. Like, it's supposed to be the Fortnite double-barreled shotgun, but it's like a 6-shot Smart AR
pistol
hammer.
Thing.
Yeah.
Hammer.
Okay, I'm going to throw this out there, too, though. I don't think... in the spirit of the question, it has to be Nerf brand necessarily, just like an official off-the-shelf blaster. I'm going to throw a couple things at you, maybe. A blaster that has been rightfully forgotten, but offers a lot, I think, for your style would be the Busby Adventure Force Tetra Shot.
Oh, yeah.
Adventure Force
Are you familiar with this thing? It has a chain, and each of the chain links holds 4 darts, but it shoots each dart in series and then advances to the next piece in the chain. However,
disgusting.
It gives you a 4-dart chain design.
Yes.
And I can imagine some things that you would enjoy building off of that with.
Yeah. I mean, it is a Springer, I presume.
It is.
But having already this pre-made chain with... Actually, is that chain available? I don't think it is it?
It probably still is. I think the Tetra Shot is just now starting to disappear off shelves. I know that when the initial ones had some bad chain, like the grip was not very good between the links, and they improved it, and when I asked them about it, they just sent me a whole new one. I think you might be able to get the chain from Busby still. They always have that little order form that you can fill out and like mail order stuff. So maybe. Solid maybe.
Sure. Which, yeah. Add lights to it, make it fully shotgun workable. Flywheels? I don't know, maybe. Well, it is a plunger system, so again, we are in territories beyond me. But working with a flywheeler, official ones, because some of the shells are quite sexy, especially on the new series. They are colorful, they are sleek. It's nice. But letting them make something... Yes?
I honestly felt that D-Dart would have been the first choice for you. Because those were the weird grip ones that had basically a drum that goes around your hand, and they made a double stack for darts. It wasn't quad, but it was at least a double shot. They also did ones that were mag, like all the way around, so it had even more shots. They did I don't remember if they ever actually did some of them. I think some of them were concepts, but I know that I've seen the double stack, and I know there was the single shot. And I know like Maritime's obviously modified them and stuff. That was kind of like, I think that was Maritime's like big video that really kind of like kicked off, I think, his social medias. But I would have figured something like that simply because they already had the taller flywheels and something similar. And you could obviously build off of it and do your own thing, but it's already in line with that. Because I don't know anybody else who did a double stack like that.
Funny you mentioned that. Do you remember the Hollander?
Yep.
The one with the horizontal magazine?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes.
What if that and the D-Dart, having this ring of magazines around your wrist that can rotate, with like a second lever but beneath the trigger or something, so you can switch to the next mag?
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, you know what?
Now you're thinking.
They did something like that, but it was like basically imagine like how the Hailfire has like a bunch of 6-rounders. They just had a bunch of those on the outside, and it wasn't like nearly as cool, and it had like hardly any rounds. I remember that now. It was
like two rounds,
like
or
there's
two, three rounds somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this whole concept of putting a horizontal magazine and then turning the darts sideways, basically 90 degrees. That's what you gotta do with one of these like wrist blasters, because the profile is so much smaller.
I see what you're going for. I like that idea.
And of course, light it all up.
Yeah.
So,
if you got it to diffuse down the talons too.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you diffused it into the magwells, so that way the entire ring was basically glowing.
Indeed. Which is kind of what I did with Hollander, just putting the light strip directly beneath the magazine, so the magazine itself acts as diffuser. It gets brighter the emptier it gets.
Now you got Domochevsky thinking with portals. Here we go.
It is on my list of things to try out.
Yeah. Perfect. Taking notes right now.
Mm-hmm. But that list is long.
Well, whenever you get there, I guess, send one to Nathani. Thanks for inspiring that conversation. Can't wait to see.
If he sends money in exchange.
Yeah.
So now we've come to that point in the show.
Oh no.
Where we will play our increasingly. I keep saying this, and I'm just going to keep saying it because I'm willing it into truth. Our increasingly. See, and then I forgot the word that I was going to say. Anyway, notorious.
You know what this stream is? This stream is jet lagged. We have like a European guest, and like the whole stream just feels like it's jet lagged. Yeah,
that always impacts it, where there's a bigger gap between us. But then we sync it all up, and it is just like a different weirdness. Anyway, it's fine.
The problem with these trivia questions is like 9 times out of 10, it is simple, it is easy, and then you suddenly have to be Raceworth. Like, oh no, oh no.
Well,
suddenly things are real.
So here's one of the things that you have to understand too, and this definitely applies today. I write them for the specific guest.
Oh no.
So a lot of times for the audience, it might be very simple, but for the guest in particular, it might be challenging. And I'm curious to see which ways this one goes, because I don't necessarily know how much knowledge you have about this, but 3 trivia questions, all multiple choice. We know you like to specialize in the Wild West, but today we'll be heading east. Specifically, we'll be asking you about the U.S. headquarters of the major in-store blaster brands, which are largely on the East Coast of the United States.
So on the west side of the globe for me, yes.
It's west. Well, where's the date line? Yeah, it's west. It's west from you, but it's east in terms of how the U.S. is thought about.
Would you like west or less west?
Well, there'll be a little bit of west.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So, who wants to read the first question?
I could go first.
Oh,
I guess.
I forgot one other thing. I'm so
jet lagged the stream.
Well done,
apparently,
host.
yeah. we also have, I got to let you know who won the raffle for this episode, who will get to ask a question of our next podcast guest, Jangular, if you're able to get 2 out of 3 questions. On the Discord, ran the random numbers, and it is Bobertson. We will keep your ears peeled and see if Domochevsky is able to get this one. Who wants to read the first question?
I'll take it, I guess. All right.
Go for it, Bob.
Let's go. So, Hasbro is headquartered in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. In 2023, they laid off 1,100 employees and closed a satellite office in what U.S. state capital? Is it A, Denver, Colorado, B, Providence, Rhode Island, or C, Montpelier, Vermont?
Can you pronounce the name of the capital of Vermont again?
Oh my god! Oh my! Did I read it wrong? I read it completely wrong.
So it's one of these funny things.
Oh.
I'll talk about that more after.
Okay, I should have been familiar with that one too. Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Today I learned that Hasbro is an American company. This is a good start. I mean, one of these city names sounded Canadian, so no. All right, run them by me again.
A, Denver, Colorado. B,
I think that's a place.
Rhode Island.
That too sounds like a place.
And then C, Montpelier, Vermont.
That's not a place. That's Canada.
They are all U.S. state capitals. There are no Canada cities here.
Oh, good.
I will give you that. They are all actually U.S. state capitals.
Oh, good. Lovely.
Yeah. And each one, it's the name of the city and then the state.
And I'll reread the question for you as well. So Hasbro is headquartered in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And in 2023, they laid off 1,100 employees and closed a satellite office in what U.S. state capital?
U.S. state capital. Interesting.
So these are all state capital.
All of these are capitals. Okay, that's also good to know.
Yeah.
These are the
Denver is the capital of Colorado. Providence is the capital of Rhode Island, and Montpelier is the capital of Vermont.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So they have the headquarters not in the capital on Rhode Island. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A satellite office. What are the odds that the satellite office is in the same county, place?
State.
State is the name. Okay. In the same state as the headquarters.
Is that your guess?
You know what? All of these options are equal to me, so sure, yeah, let's go with that one.
So it'll be B, Providence, Rhode Island. You would actually be correct on that. Yes, they actually had a satellite office in the same state as their headquarters.
I fully knew this. This was unintentional.
All according to plan.
So this is where I'm interested to see how this goes, because I don't know how much you know about U.S. geography. And
the answer to that is no.
I feel so bad about Vermont because I actually have a friend that lives in that city. I should have known that. But
so I live just outside. I live in Vermont as well. I live like in central Vermont. And I put that on there for fun, kind of, because the thing that's distinct about Montpelier, and I realized that, so it's a French name because there's a lot of connection with like French Canada over here, but it's obviously, I'm not pronouncing it Montpellier. That's bad French pronunciation, but that's more the French pronunciation, right? But it's one of these things where it's been Americanized. Like it's Montpelier.
It's similar to the
here.
argument I always get into with all of my other Nerf friends. They will be like, "Oh yeah, the state's called Missouri," and I'm like, "No, if you're going by the French pronunciation, it's Missouri, and that's how everyone in the state pronounces it as well. We go Missouri,
right?"
And they're like, "That no, that's wrong. It's Missouri."
Oh, good, it's Missouri. Lovely.
Yeah,
yeah, like no, it's Missouri.
Okay.
But where Montpelier is the smallest state. So Rhode Island is physically the smallest state in the United States, but it's like it's not the least populated by like a decent few. There's a handful underneath it. I forget exactly. Vermont is less populous than Rhode Island, but like 2 or 3 times the size. And Montpelier is the smallest state capital, both in landmass and population. It's nowhere near the biggest city in Vermont. We have like 2 or 3 cities larger than than our capital. So there's no way that Hasbro would ever put a headquarters there. There's physically no space for them to put one.
Yeah, I mean,
Denver, Colorado is like on the other side of the country.
I'm gonna take your word for it. I remember Rhode Island being also this like video game company epicenter for something. But beyond that,
there's a surprising amount of that kind of stuff.
Rhode Island has
stuff in Rhode Island.
Yeah, even naval officer training is actually there as well for the United States military. So it's surprisingly Rhode Island, for how small it is as a landmass, is like how large that state is. It has quite a lot in it. It's surprisingly dense. Yeah, it's surprisingly dense for how small it is.
Okay, so I presume it is also on a coast.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people are hearing you say surprisingly dense for how small it is, and being like same.
Yep, same.
Clip it.
No.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Oh,
yeah, stream. There you go. There you go, KT. There's your redeem.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Well, good news. You're 1 up already. And it's Grim's turn to read a question.
All right. Question number 2. Hasbro isn't the only foam flinging brand with a headquarters in the eastern United States, but not all of them are on this side of the country. Which of the other major on-shelf brands has its United States headquarters on the west coast of the United States? Is it A, Zuru X-Shot, B, Primetime Toys, or Dart Zone, as they're otherwise known as, or is it C, Busby Toys?
Today I learned that the US has multiple coasts. All right, so process of elimination. X-Shot is from the east, I think China, is it? So that they don't have their headquarters there in the US. That's not a thing. The other ones were what?
Primetime Toys, or otherwise known as Dart Zone. And C is Busby Toys.
All of these were kind of before my time and outside of my scope. Busby.
Well, they're all active companies now.
Okay.
They all of them sell under their own brands as well as under the Walmart Adventure Force brand in the US.
Saying it's out of your scope and you're the guru of micro reshells for X-Shot is really funny to me, actually. I just have to put that out there.
I mean, I got into this whole thing in like late 2019. I have none of the lore. So I remember Mongoose Jake talking a lot about Busby blasters, and given that he's down under, he's gonna have like some way to easily get them. So I'm also gonna eliminate that one. And actually, before I make a decision, run the question by me again.
Hasbro isn't the only foam flinging brand with a headquarters in the eastern United States, but not all of them are on this side of the country. Which of the other major on-shelf brands has its United States headquarters on the west coast of the United States? So the opposite end. Is it A, Zuru X-Shot, B, Primetime Toys, otherwise known as Dart Zone, or C, Busby Toys?
Yeah, okay. No, I'm gonna go with all things being equal, Primetime.
Is that your final answer?
Thus it shall be.
You would be incorrect. The answer is A, Zuru X-Shot. So,
excuse me?
Funnily enough, Primetime is actually a very interesting company because it's like 50%, like some of it is in the United States and then some of it is over in Asia. And as far as I'm aware, the headquarters is actually in Asia, from what I can recall. And then they do have a headquarters in the United States, but
they have a U.S. headquarters and an Asian headquarters. Yeah. So the Asian part of the business is called Easebond Services Limited, and we actually we were the ones that were able to confirm that they are in fact like the same company. That's just how they're incorporated there. But they exist. I didn't put down where their actual office is, but they're like in what we call the Midwest. I'm not going to get into that because that's
where I hail from.
Yeah. Listen, when I moved to the East Coast from the West Coast, I lived in the central, what we call Northern California, which is actually like the center of California, north to south. And people were like, "Oh, you must go to Disneyland all the time." It's like, no, it's like an 8-hour drive.
It's like a big country that people just
The thing I have to like point out to people is each state is like the size of its own country. So it's basically just really like imagine 50 countries combined into one big super thing, and that's kind of that puts the scale of like each state into perspective for people usually.
Yeah, it's seriously massive.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But yeah, when I started researching this, I figured that this is weird because if you think about the West Coast of the United States, Domo, if you're coming from Asia, you get to the West Coast first. Because you think of Asia to the east, but it's to the west of the United States, and it's just you cross the Pacific Ocean and you land in California.
Yes.
I assumed that that's why Zuru has their headquarters near Los Angeles in Southern California. But all of these companies have Busby. Busby was founded in the United States, but it has which we'll get to in a second. But it has a Hong Kong office too, which I assume is more of a manufacturing liaison kind of office.
Probably.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I had no chance.
We're 1-1. We're getting into our last question. You can still totally do this. You ready for your last question?
No, but do it anyway.
All right, here we go. Busby Toys has been located in the same Mount Laurel, New Jersey office since they were founded in 2002 by former employees of what other New Jersey toy company which had recently been shuttered? A. Ideal. B. Tyco. C. Laramie.
Are you really asking me about U.S. trivia history?
I was reading this question and thinking like, this has just got to sound like straight gibberish.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound gibberish to me because one of the companies immediately stands out, and that's only because of their ties to like other stuff, hobby related.
Yeah.
Like, are you making these words up?
That's funny. Is because I think it's hilarious just listening.
Okay, so here, let me do this though. I will do this and simplify it a little bit. I tied the whole question together based around the fact that all these companies are from New Jersey, which is a state that is near New York.
Yeah, that helps.
Has a lot of like business stuff in it. But here's the thing. The New Jersey part doesn't really matter in the question. The real question is, Busby Toys was founded by former employees of which of these three other toy companies? Ideal, Tyco, or Laramie? A, Ideal, B, Tyco, C, Laramie.
Like, we are deeply within the beret swerve right now. Like, can I call Brett? Is that an option?
Hey T, may I give a hint? And I'm not even sure if it's like that much of a hint. It could be.
Yeah, totally.
Hint: the company is one that Silly Butts is quite fond of.
Who the fuck is Silly Butts? This does not help, is what I'm saying.
Okay, let's do this. I will tell you what each of these companies. Well, not really what they're most well known for, but Ideal is most well known for the Rubik's Cube. Tyco is known for a number of things. They had a Lego knockoff for a long time, but they made a blaster brand called Air Blasters for about 5 years in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And Laramie is best known for Super Soakers.
I see. So I'm gonna roll out the first one because you don't go from Rubik's cubes to blasters. That's a long bridge. Like that's unlikely given the other ones. Let's try a different approach. Mongoose Jake. The man has a fondness for Busby.
It's true.
And I've seen his videos of him like talking about them and showing them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to see if anything of that information stuck with me.
I'm fairly confident that Jake has talked about the history of Busby.
I think he has. So that's kind of what I'm pondering. So it's not the first one. That's no. Run the other by me again.
The other two are B, Tycho, and C, Laramie. So Tycho is for 5 years they made Air Blasters. That was their brand. And then C is known for Super Soakers.
I mean, going from Super Soakers to blasters, that's...
Do you know about what happened to Super Soakers and like the sort of the fate of that brand, where it is now?
Nope.
It's currently a Hasbro subsidiary. It's currently part of Nerf. So all the Super Soakers are currently Nerf branded.
Yeah, okay. Actually, isn't the name Super Soaker a Nerf brand too?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It is because Hasbro owns Laramie.
It was founded by former employees, you say?
Yes. Hint.
Yeah, it's kind of, I'm like trying to put it together, but...
Okay. I think you're really close, so I'm going to give you the backup hint. Do you remember the correct answers to the other two questions?
There were other questions?
The first question, the answer was B, Providence, Rhode Island.
Sure.
The second question was A, Zuru X-Shot. And you're now deciding between B, Tycho, and C, Laramie.
Okay, I could go by basic pattern recognition, sure.
Do you remember the beret episode?
Yeah, that's... Well, all the answers were B. But
right.
You know what?
So this one, the answers so far are B, Providence, Rhode Island, A, Zuru X-Shot.
Yeah. I'm currently like waffling between the last two, and I think I've heard Jake use the term Laramie. Like, I vaguely remember it. I have no context for this, but I think he has said this. I can taste it with his accent. So, you know what? All things being equal, that's what we're going to go with.
We're going with C, Laramie? That is 100% correct. Congratulations.
Good.
2 out of 3. So the history on this is actually, I had way too much fun researching this. I knew a lot of this stuff, but I was able to get a little more in detail. The first company, Ideal, is mostly relevant here because they existed in New Jersey. They have never had a blaster brand. They never had a blaster brand. They became most famous for the Rubik's Cube, although they had some other big products. And they were founded in Queens, which is a borough of New York. And they moved to New Jersey in the early 80s. And they were bought by Tyco, the answer B, in 89. They operated until Tyco merged with Mattel in 97, and some of their products were sold to Hasbro. When Tyco shut down in 1999, under Mattel's umbrella, that was still over a decade until Mattel would make Boomco. So even though Tyco had its own blaster brand for 5 years, it was like 15 more years until Mattel would make Boomco, even though they owned Tyco at that point. Laramie, though, was originally based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, another city in a different state.
I'm going to remember all of this.
1959, and they moved to New Jersey by the time they started the Super Soaker brand. And they only made Super Soakers for 4 years, from 1991 to 95, before they were acquired by Hasbro. Hasbro shuttered the Laramie brand, but kept Super Soakers in 2002, and they laid off some of the employees who immediately started Busby. And they actually, the offices for Busby are just apparently a few blocks from the original Laramie offices. So the connection between those two brands is very close.
Right.
So there you go. There's the history dump on Busby.
The fascinating thing about old Super Soakers was the pressure systems that they used in them. All of that was originally created by a NASA scientist who patented all of that, and all of the money that he gets from that he uses to fund his own what is it? It's some office. I don't even remember where he's out of. I think Florida. But all of his own studies and things like that is funded by the money that he gets from that.
I want to make sure we say his name because I always have to look it up too. Lonnie Johnson.
Lonnie Johnson. Yeah,
he's the guy who does. What's his company called now? I'm trying to remember.
I don't
what
remember,
is his
but
current company?
But that's what's interesting is that they used air-powered systems, and then Busby, a lot of their brand has used a lot of pressure systems, air pressure systems of some kind, through a lot of that branding, which is just which is not surprising considering that most of those people were making air-powered water blasters, and then they later just created air-powered, rocket, the rocket launcher systems like the Berserker and the little shoulder rocket launcher, the XBZ and stuff like that. Like that was all their stuff later in the timeline. It's just really interesting to kind of see. There's a lot of history behind it, and it's actually quite interesting because he was under a huge thing with Hasbro because apparently they weren't paying him his royalties for his patents and stuff for a very long time.
He got a $73 million payout to catch up on the royalties he wasn't paid.
Good.
Yep. And he used all of that for his research and stuff because he still stayed a scientist, and he just has his own, laboratory that he basically does testing and stuff, and he's used that money to do all of that.
Yep.
Living the dream.
Yeah. Indeed. So there you go.
Don't ever do that again.
Jeez. So yeah, 2 out of 3. Congratulations. You got there. And I will be in touch, Bobertson, to find out what question you want to ask Jangular.
Of course, I knew all of these things and made it intentionally like it was getting tight.
You can breathe a sigh of relief now. It's okay.
Uh-huh.
It's okay.
I merely feigned ignorance. It was all a ruse.
So,
it was not a ruse.
moving forward. We had a lot of new name brand stuff come out this week, or this episode, I should say, because some of these go back 2 weeks, like I said, to our kind of around our previous episode. And I want to talk about each of them briefly, particularly from Dart Zone, we have the Striker 2.0. And from X-Shot, we have the motorized Clip Mania. When I don't know if we were knowing when to expect a new Insanity Blaster. And then from Nerf, of course, the Pro, Torrent, and Sender. I want to start with the Dart Zone with the Striker 2.0. And it is a pump action primary class Springer. But it has the Tomcat. Well, it's not. It has a drum.
It's a Tomcat 2.0.
It can be swapped out for a mag adapter.
Okay.
So my question is this multi-mode blaster a cool new feature, or is it just going to be bad at both of them?
So I think it's just the Tomcat 2.0, and it was rebadged for Striker because that's a more popular name. Honestly, I will stand by that. I will die on this hill because that is a Tomcat with a community member, somebody who created the mag adapter for the Tomcat. And it wasn't necessarily a bad blaster. It was just, unfortunately, most people didn't like the aesthetics of it. At the end of the day, that was kind of the biggest problem. And it's sort of the same thing of like, well, I don't like the drum, but I think the blaster's fine. And then, oh, here's a mag adapter. And then Dart Zone just kind of did it with this and then put the Striker name on it. That's just how I see it, at least.
So,
and of course, they spell it with a Y.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to be hopefully optimistic for it. However, I'll preface with this and get my bias out of the way. I bought a Tomcat back when it was $15 on that Target sale, right?
Nice.
I later gave it away, if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
However, it isn't without trying it out thoroughly. The issue the Tomcat had for some people, it wasn't necessarily an inherent design flaw, but for some reason, the way the grip on the pump was, like the area it was positioned, combined with like the stroke distance, for some people with the spring load, would cause it to like put pain in their arm when priming. I was one of those people, so it was physically uncomfortable to like actually prime the blaster. Like I'd get like a muscle like kind of pinch, essentially.
Like tennis elbow.
Yeah, basically. I got basically the equivalent of tennis elbow priming it. The other thing I didn't like is similar, from my understanding, to the Dictator. It's kind of like under-barreled but oversprung for the performance. So it had like a very heavy spring load with a prime that was uncomfortable. And then the drum system adds resistance to the prime on top of the spring load. So it's like if you had it in there, you'd have to push through the mechanism that would sometimes bind up on itself on an already uncomfortable system. However, removing that, and if you did like a Talon conversion, that would fix that part of it. And then there was a kit to fix it. I just didn't have the time for it, so I was like, you know what, I didn't spend much money on it. I'll hand it off to someone who can get better use out of it. So why I'm saying I'm hopefully optimistic is it looks to be similar in shaping to like a Nexus Pro X, and stuff. Yeah. And it's using a smaller drum. So I'm hoping the system doesn't bind up on itself there. Its ergonomics look to be more in line. And even if I don't like the drum, I can swap it to the Talon conversion out of the box.
Do we think it's going to be more like a Nexus Pro X, or more like a Tomcat, or more like a Striker on the inside?
I'm leaning more to the Pro X just based off of like the shaping of it and like the sizing. But I would like that is like purely speculation.
I feel like it's going to be closer to the Tomcat, because the Pro X has that sort of offset plunger tube system,
right,
which would allow you to, pull the mag out even while it was primed, or you didn't have to prime it back to basically unload the mag. If it has to go through the drum, nothing. I didn't see anything on the top of the drum that would show that it works the same, where it could actually have like a slender part to allow it to be pulled out unless it was primed. So I don't know. To me, it looks like that. I haven't really looked too far into it. Actually, one other thing, wasn't the Tomcat, their pusher didn't have an O-ring on it?
The O-ring was inside the chamber of the barrel. It wasn't in the pusher.
Oh, okay. It wasn't on the actual pusher itself.
No,
okay.
It wasn't.
I couldn't remember because I haven't looked at mine in a long time.
Yeah.
And I just remember there wasn't one on the pusher, but I couldn't remember if it even had one to begin with. So.
Yeah, I remember because Jolt at the time had like sent me some photos, because he also desprung his and like changed some stuff with the barrel, because he also was having a similar issue. So he just decreased the spring load and like got it to hit around the same. But I believe from like what I recall in his images off the top of my head that it had like 2 O-rings on like the inside of the chamber. I don't have mine anymore, so I can't like verify that.
I can see mine. Mine's to the left of me. I don't want to go grab it because it would just be a pile of blasters getting flung everywhere. I can see it, and I'm like,
I guess comment down below if we're incorrect.
The Striker 2 is making the same performance claims as the Nexus Pro X.
So it's
the 200 foot thing, which presumably means it's the same amount of power.
I mean, someone did recently send me a Tomcat to do experiments with, And looking at these pictures, the drum has the same connectors as the Tomcat. Like, these are identical front and back. So what are the odds that if they reuse that mechanism, it's going to be the same as the other ones?
Right.
And I tried to shoot it for a bit, the Tomcat. It is very crunchy.
Yeah.
Like, also it is very beefy. Like, that is an easy 200. And
I mean, theoretically, they should be able to put, like, have the old drum be compatible with the newer power system. Right?
It's not going to be compatible.
The old drum was thinner. Like, the old drum was like thinner and a bunch of other stuff with it. Because it was the like.
Because this has to fill the whole mag well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also, the old drum was thicker. 2 dots wide, and none of these mechanisms are in here.
Right.
And also, Tomcat really didn't like crummy darts. Like, I kept having clogs like constantly with that one.
Yeah.
What do we think about the aesthetics of this? So the Dart Zone has switched over to this green. I say green and purple, but most of the purple's on the box. The blaster's really green, and then there's certain details in the printing. So it has a printed side, right? That's using the whatever that printing technique is, the
inking
ink
or whatever
style printing. So and it's got like faux gears. It's supposed to look like gears, or maybe like a toroidal transformer in the back there, and then like bundles of wires. It's kind of unclear what the look is that they're going for. Like, is it supposed to be like transparent?
I can't tell.
Sure
like, it just looks busy.
It looks like coil.
It does, yeah.
On the back end, when I'm looking at the image, right behind where it says Dart Zone Max, it looks like a copper coil or a heat sink type of a thing. As you move forward, it looks more of like there's like something that looks almost brass. And it looks like a knurled brass gear or something.
Right.
Then further forward again, it looks like more copper. It's almost like a laser. It looks like how you would see a laser have some kind of like copper heat sinks or something like that on it, and how it's suspended in there. Because as you move forward, it also has sort of what looks like a neural, like those really nice flashlights that people have for their everyday carry stuff. Those people who spend a lot of money on these really fancy flashlights. It looks like that on the printing. Like, personally, I like the green. But the blasters, to me, the one thing I didn't like about the Striker, even as it was, is one, I wasn't a huge horizontal grip. It's just more of an ergonomics thing for me. But the blasters have become quite boxy, and that was kind of a lot of people's complaints about the Tomcat. It was just kind of a brick. Like the side of it and everything is it's just very square. And I feel the same way about some of these blasters as well, between, the Striker or the 2.0 and even the Venom coming out. They're very, very boxy to me.
Yeah.
Omnia was very boxy. Like they've kind of gone for very, very simplistic designs all the way around.
I like the look of the Venom, but I think it gets away with it just because it's like a simple design. Like, it's not trying to do too much. Like, it has a few nice details on it. It is very boxy. It does look sort of like snub nose in a way that's a little bit weird, but also like, for something that's bigger than I expected it to be once I saw it, like in Andrew's hands, in Dart Sweep's hands.
It is way bigger than I thought.
It is way bigger, but also like, so that means that the fact that it's kind of short is nice, because it still makes it sort of holsterable.
It's almost like the Phoenix, the first worker Phoenix that came out. It was almost like that too. It was that kind of big, chunky box. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think what it almost sounds, or what it looks like to me, is it's like we don't have to waste as much time on the aesthetics of it, because if we can deal with the performance more,
right,
people are going to do whatever they want with it. They're going to paint it. They're going to put their own stuff on it. Like, they're going to do whatever. So,
well, and I think that's true, but also, like, I just feel I'll lay my opinion bare at this point. I just think they really botched the aesthetics on the Striker 2.0. I think it looks pretty bad. I don't think the printing makes any sense. That's too much going on. And I think that the magwell adapter looks dumb. Like, why couldn't you make that in green plastic? It just needed to be green. It just needed or orange or something, some color. It just looks like they didn't put color in the
It
vat.
just looks like the 3D printed design part. It looks like just a skeletonized version of the 3D part that we already had on Etsy, just thrown in as like an afterthought of, oh, by the way, it can also do this kind of thing.
And it looks like someone used the discount like raw filament to print it that they just had lying around because they were just doing it off the
wait,
cuff.
is that thing printed?
No, it's not. But
Okay.
I'm just saying because they didn't put any color on it.
Okay, yeah, I
it
see what
doesn't
you
look
mean.
like it's supposed to match the stock, but I also don't know why the stock is that color.
See,
but
light gray,
whatever.
green, and darker gray goes together if you like make it color blocked correct. And I feel like had they just gone with that and then removed the screen printing, it wouldn't have looked terrible. I have a bunch of the photos of like their different blasters of the period pulled up right now. Like, I didn't hate the Tomcat because it looked kind of sci-fi, but it is very, aside from the Mark IV, it's like different stylistically from literally everything else they've ever produced. They had their like very almost not overly greebled, but very like detailed and greebled stuff. Like you had your 1.2, 1.1, you had your Mark 2.1s, you had the Mark 3, and they all kind of had the same style. And then you had these like more simple ones, and now you're getting this new generation of stuff that kind of is a bit smoother. I like all of them in different respects. I just don't personally like the screen printing on it. And I feel like the color blocking is a little off. I also
I will
feel like
I agree. No, I agree. Sorry, finish your thought, and then I have one more thing, and then we'll move on to the next.
Like their Maxim or whatever, for example. Like I feel like the choice to put screen printing on that one, where it's an overall transparent blaster, for example, it just feels like an odd choice there, similar to how it is on the Striker, where it's an odd choice. It feels like it's trying to create like a current new wave line brand cohesion to match the Nexus Pro X and the Aeon Pro X, but they don't really need it because it doesn't work for those blasters because they weren't designed with it in mind. It just feels like an afterthought.
Yeah. I think that the one hope that I have for the Striker 2 is the fact that you can switch between drum and magazine, and the fact that it should have the same like pop a cap off the back and swap a spring out functionality that the Nexi and the Striker 1 have. Does theoretically make it a single blaster that you can take to an HVZ and comp event, and like use for both, because you can actually change the ammo method. It's just a question of whether it's good and whether it works. I'm more hopeful, I think, for the Venom. We've known about the Venom for a while, but like, I just in terms of it being a more affordable and accessible and doesn't use a lipo version of like a Nightingale. A flywheel sidearm. I appreciate just that exists, and I think it looks fine, and it's inexpensive. I want to talk for a second about the X-Shot motorized clip mania. Have you seen this, Domo?
I don't think I have.
Have you seen this thing yet? So we haven't heard anything from the Insanity line. Well, I shouldn't say that because we have the Horror Fire sub line coming. But so far, until now, the only electric blaster that X-Shot has ever produced was the Rage Fire. And the motorized clip mania is the X-Shot. It's colloquially easier to say it's the X-Shot Strife, but it's really more the X-Shot Thunderbolt or Spectrum, right? Because it's a 6AA battery, which puts it in sort of a different power level. The thing that's really selling me on this one is that it comes with 3 magazines. When is the last time a blaster has come with more than 2 magazines?
And mag holders. That's part of their whole clip system that they use. And because they have these 2 clips that go on either side where the rail is at on this blaster, and then both of the mags can click into that. And it's like I don't giving you extra mags besides some of the pro line even giving you that, if at all.
Name a Nerf blaster that comes with more than 1 mag.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Unless it was part of the gimmick, you don't really.
I think like the regulator, and that's like that was pricey.
Hailfire. That's going to be your only other.
Yeah,
and
but
that was
they
like
just gave
2012.
You 6-round mags, and like if you wanted to actually have, but it's like if you put that many 6-round mags in a Hailfire, you may as well just have like 2 18-round mags.
I think the ECS-10 also did, but that was like their flagship blaster of the Modulus line at the time. But like, we're getting into like
put out mags. It made sense for them to include a couple, but then they just stopped doing that.
Yeah.
So I mean, here's my real question, right? Like, if this is the X-Shot Striphoid, there's a little bit of question about what the price is going to be, because there's like a Euro price, and we found it on like a Spanish website, and we found it on a Mexican website, and like it's a little unclear what the price is because there's a lot of like import-export stuff, and Zuru has so much international penetration that it's hard to tell like where it might cost them more to send things. At what price is this a good deal? Considering like like the build quality of the Insanity series, which is not bad, but not the best.
Well, if you look at the Ragefire and the fact that it had that massive tripod, it had all this extra stuff. It, had the huge chain, ton of darts, just like this has, and it was $50. A lot of people even looked at that as like not a bad deal for what you got. I have one sitting behind me, across the room.
Yeah,
and if this was at $40, I think this would still probably be a pretty good deal, especially because you have the extra mags to begin with, and their mags there's no reason to believe the mags are going to be bad.
mags are pretty good.
They're not. Well, like Hasbro's gone that route of really, really cheap mags.
Yeah,
we've seen that in a few of their more recent mag offerings, and I honestly just tear them open and take the spring and the follower and throw the rest in the trash as a backup, because they're really bad. But from what I've seen between like some of these other stuff, I can't see X-Shots being bad, because if it's like the one that came with the long shot, that mag is fantastic. It's totally fine. It works great. I think that if it's between 40, even if it is up to 50, which would be a little bit on the high side, just comparing it to the Ragefire, I don't think it's necessarily a bad choice, because they give you all that like weird dart storage and stuff too. Like they give you the clips for their whole.
The mag clips are cool. What do you think, Grimz?
As far as price goes for me, and this one's a little bit more like I have my reasons for it, but the price is going to be a really important factor on this one for if I could recommend it. I'm going to get it out of the way that I think it'll be good. It'll be fine for what it does. That's not really where my problem or potential issue could lie. It's just that the main selling point for this would be like the YouTube thumbnail now, the ultimate HVZ blaster for beginners, or like other stuff like that. Right. You can see it now with like the pointing at it and like a price point and other stuff. But the previous offerings you had were like, these drum mag things, and they were good for the price. They had their little issues here and there. This is a Strife that is like bar none the most popular platform for that kind of style of play that I see. HVZ now is kind of in this weird spot where I almost, like, for example, at 2022 Indoor, I think I saw more half dart usage than I saw full length dart usage. This is a full dart blaster. You can get the Maxim Pro for $40. And that is a Talon geometry half dart Striphoid blaster. Now it hits 150 FPS, so you would have to like do some shenanigans with it. But like that thing out of the box will be more accurate and more in line with something that is largely still accepted at HVZ than a full length blaster. So I guess what I'm saying is, with their plastic quality and like where it lies performance wise, I guess like $20-$30 would be like the ideal, like accounted for inflation Strife, but I'd be willing to accept like 30-35 somewhere in there. But like anywhere above that, I would just recommend someone mess around with the Nexus Pro, unless they literally don't have like access to mess around with it,
I think it's with all the additions though, because it is 3 mags, 15 dart mags and 72 darts, so they're definitely not skimping on the darts.
Absolutely. I guess it also depends on who the person is. It's like, I want to go to an HVZ, what do I do? If it's like Johnny and he's like 9 and his mom's asking like, what blaster do I give? Or it's like Tommy and he's like 12. I'd immediately just be like, this blaster. Now, if they're like any older, that's where it's like the Maxim Pro would probably be more what I'd say, and just like see if they can undervolt it or something with something like a.
Do Johnny and Tommy and Timmy and Jimmy all go to the same school now, or
No, I don't think that you would know them. They go to a different school.
Yeah, I'm looking at the prices right now. This current website, it's showing it at about 40, just shy of €44.
Okay.
So if it's going to be in the US, I mean, it's kind of weird because it can always kind of go up or down based on that. But even if you suspect it at like 45, USD, even up to 50, I don't know. Again,
you're looking at the Spanish version. I'm looking at the German variant, which is €40.
Yeah. So I think I'm looking at the Spanish one.
Which for $40 for the entire package you're getting, that's okay. 72 darts, like just you don't have to buy an extra pack. You get 3 magazines, you get dart storage on board. Like that's a solid package.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. If it was up at 50 as the same as a Ragefire, I'd say that's a little bit too much. 40 is a really good sort of middle ground, I would say. Like that, if it's 40 or even if it's below 40, that would be like a really good package overall. Because having extra mags is always the biggest problems, especially if you're buying them for kids. That's how I look at it. Because if you have multiple mags, that usually in and of itself makes for a good extra chunk. They'll sell a mag pack for $10 to $15 or €10 or whatever for an extra mag or two, kind of a thing. So it's like, well, that seems about right.
Also, this blaster, that is a PDK Films blaster,
Isn't it? Yeah.
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 Like, I feel like any
about
kid
a
who
lot.
sees that, they'll absolutely adore it. Yeah.
Just load it up with darts to the gills, and only one of these things actually does anything. But it looks intimidating.
I guess I'm just showing my age as a hobby member in the fact that I just keep thinking $20 Strife. But like I guess the other part of where that pricing stuff comes into the equation for me, not that I would recommend this to anyone, it just mattered to me, I guess, is that like you can still get a Strife for $30 on Amazon, for example, with like a grip.
No, you cannot.
It doesn't come with any of like the accessories this thing does. But in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, the nicer plastic, the other stuff, I can work on this. Doesn't matter for like any of these people. But I would still probably myself grab a Strife to mess around with, or like a Maxim. But like,
right.
But the intended audience, the Insanity, like motorized blaster will do just fine.
Moving to the next one, X-Shot also gave us a new Pro Skins blaster, which was really unexpected.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a long shot. It's a short shot, shorter, less long shot.
I was so confused when I first saw it.
I still don't know what I'm looking at.
It's a top prime.
Right.
Yeah, and when I first saw it, I was like, is this a flywheeler as well? I couldn't tell for the longest time, and then I was like, oh, the top of it. For some reason, when I look at it now, I look at it and think, oh, it's like an Apollo for some reason. Like
that's the comparison I kept seeing.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
The new X-Shot. There's a X-Shot Skins Pro Blaster called the Fury X now.
I'll drop it in.
What is that like? That's like a graphics card name, if I recall.
Fury X.
Yeah, I think that was like an AMD card.
Sounds dangerous, so it must be a graphic card's name.
Somebody put that AMD, like an image of that AMD card actually in the chat.
Same brand, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That blaster is quite sexy. It is sleek.
It's a bullpup. It's a top prime. The whole. I didn't know where the prime was, because when I was looking at this is where
probably the front piece.
Yeah, it's the top front. You can kind of see the slide on the side of it a little bit once you actually see it. But what I like about X-Shot's, like their skins line compared to say Dart Zones, it's so nice. It is busy, but for some reason it works so well with the bodies that they like their panels that they use on, especially on the Pro lines. I've really liked it on the Zuru Longshot and this Fury X. I think it looks really good. It's always a really nice it complements the shell.
It's
I'll
like
put it that way.
busy, but it works, if that makes any
That's
sense.
what-
There's a
yeah,
difference
that's what I
between it
say.
being busy and it being like an eyesore and it being busy and it work. And this works.
I
Well,
agree.
again, it's
I agree.
complementing the shell. It's complementing the panel lines, the shapes. It's doing all of that. The other one was just sort of like, here's a big empty spot, fill it up with something. And that's where this is not really doing that. It's trying to lean in on, the little greeble work. Like you'll see little windows that are colored orange or have a darker color in it, and they're leaning into those parts. That's, I think, a way better way to do this.
Yeah, this looks like a paint job someone did rather than like a...
Here's a decal on the side of something.
Right. Here's the other key takeaways on this, of course, are that it's half dart exclusive, which the Pro Longshot was not, which is also the move that Dart Zone has made. I mean, this is clearly like X-Shot's Aeon on some level. It also makes the same performance claim as the Longshot. Which is interesting because, of course, the Longshot has a barrel. And this, well, I guess theoretically, this could have as much barrel. If it's a bullpup, it could have almost as much barrel. And it's shooting half darts exclusively, which means the performance would be more consistent. It seems to come with 2x. It does. Well, I think so. I think it has.
I think that's a cardboard cutout because a lot of brands do that now to like hold the blaster straight. It looks like a cardboard cutout because it also wouldn't be. It would have to be a shorty mag otherwise.
It is cardboard. I can see the perforation on it where it was folded.
The only thing that's interesting to me immediately that I'm looking at this closer now, the distance between the magwell and the butt of the stock is really short, which might like indicate a style of like Link style turnaround system or something similar going on in there.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what I was thinking it was. Actually, I feel that the plunger tube is probably right where, like above where the grip is, or actually no, they're probably doing their same inline setup.
They're probably doing the inline setup, but like there might be some kind of turnaround or some kind of thing for the back section or whatever.
Yeah, they're doing that inline because all it needs to do is just push the dart into the chamber and seal the back, so it doesn't need to be a very long pusher system actually. Or, because it's just going to hook back, grab the back of the dart, and then push it forward. Yeah. Oh, I'm fascinated with it. I'm actually really interested in this thing now.
But also completely independent of that, the shell is quite sexy. So being able to use it for other systems, like imagine cutting off the back end and putting a revolver style into that body. Like
that I already see the
I remember Taffy
design.
was designing something like that, and then he stopped. Like, this would be fun to experiment with that. But I know Lidl did something similar. What was it? The nail clipper, if I recall.
Yes.
Okay.
Similar, but string powered, of course.
Yeah.
But
that would be pretty sick.
Just imagine the entire back end off, just stopping at bullpup, use the shell, and put a different system in there.
Craziest part about this is it's $10 cheaper than the original X-Shot Longshot. Same performance darts.
Which is
only $25?
It's only $15.
Pretty wild.
It's $15.99.
What? For this?
Or $14.99. Look at the image that I just posted, the Amazon image. $14.99.
That is a throwaway. Damn.
That is
It is like
nothing.
It is a lost leader of lost leaders right there.
I don't think we've ever seen that. Well, it would be interesting to go back and calculate the FPS per dollar. I'm pretty sure this is, if you're looking at, if it's saying 140 feet, it's probably shooting 140 to 150 FPS, right? So you're approaching, 10 cents per foot per second.
Least, yeah.
That's still a crazy price tag though for how that's. Yeah, you get two of these and still have money left over.
Only getting one magazine doesn't feel quite as bad.
I mean, it seems to be a Teller magazine, so
the long shot is compatible. So, speaking of Talon magazine compatibility, we also have the big story probably of this fortnight, the Nerf Pro Torrent and Sender. Which got dropped as Walmart leaks, and then all the info dumped all at once from all the influencers that visited Hasbro headquarters back in May. Lots of things to talk about with this. The first one being they are angled talon compatible, which is sort of a fascinating move. And I think that this really ties into one of the other things to talk about this, which is the design language of them. Because I think that the angled talon choice is just related to the ergonomics, of course, but also the way that they wanted these blasters.
It just feels like an aesthetic choice. It like looking at it, I'm like, this looks like something I've seen SFI Ryan like tinker around with, like, oh, it'd be cool if I did a blaster that looked like this. And he was like, well, then I'd have to do like angled talons, for example. It looks like one of those kind of style things where it was just like, you have like this drawing or whatever in your head of what you want it to look like, and the magazine just happened to be angled, so they went with angled talons, essentially. Right. I'm sure there's probably a little bit more into that than that, but it just looks like it's an aesthetic choice, and I honestly don't mind since it's angled talon compatible. At least there's the compatibility.
I can see so many people being mad that they have to now get angled talons.
I don't even have angled talons, and I'm fine with it. Like I still want to get one.
There are so many people that I have always seen in the hobby who because they invested in straight talon, and then when angled talon became a thing, they got so angry, like, I will never do angled talons. And then, the Nightingale mags came. I will never get angled anything. And now Nerf has their own. It's like every time, because they bought into one particular half dart type of mag, and they cannot for the life of them get a new one. And I'm just kind of, to me, it's just kind of comical. Right. What I find funny about the design, and because I have the Infinite here, it's not just the Pro line. The In series also has a very similar, like, stylistic aesthetics. Their aesthetics are very clear between all of these particular brands, between whether it's Pro or In series or whatever. They clearly
it goes back to Nerf Junior also.
Yeah,
I think that's very, very well like, you can see a design through line from Nerf Junior to Nerf Pro, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're really connecting all of them at this point now between these lines, and I've had a lot of people talking to me or asking me about the shells and stuff, and I'm very surprised. Whatever they've done, they have learned some tricks over the years, so I don't see these shells being any worse or anything. They're going to feel probably very solid, because some people were worried. They're like, oh, well, they've thinned out the shells and there's not a lot of ribbing on the inside. And I've grabbed these things and I've put all my force into it to try to flex them, and they don't really like to flex, actually. They've done very, very good jobs at making these things well built for what they are. So I'm hopeful that everything's going to keep going this way.
I think what we're seeing here now is just like the benefits of having hobby designers working for Hasbro now, who are trying their best to like make something that they'd like, even under like the requirements that they have to uphold at this point. Because like most of these blasters, you see a little post from like a former hobbyist, and they're like, hey, I had a little hand in this. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can kind of tell. You can kind of see it a little.
There is some interesting things about this as well for the cost cutting. And sometimes when you need to design, when you have limitations like that, you have to come up with really interesting solutions to those limitations. Limitations a lot of times will sort of breed fascinating, problem solving and things like that are things that you never would have expected. And again, it can either be really, really great, or it can be really bad. And in this case, I'm seeing a lot of really good changes. So,
yeah.
Domo, what do you think of these?
Domo with no limitations.
Yes. I cannot handle that much power. No, actually, limitations, X-Shot micros, you know the ones. Intentional design limitations, good. And looking at these blaster designs, they are quite sleek. Like, they have clear shapes, clear colors. They know what to do with their shapes. So well done there. Also, there are new magazines I see with these little bumpers on the back end.
Yeah, those look good, and they have the little, you can tie something to it, I guess. I don't know. No, it's good. Do we think that Hasbro made this claim that they were going to cut manufacturing costs without cutting quality? Is that reflected here?
I mean, if this is it, I don't really have any complaints personally.
Yeah.
So far, I mean, obviously we don't have them in hand,
if it gets any different than this, then I'm gonna be I'll have a different opinion. But like so far, what I'm seeing at the very least, for example, with these N series blasters, they kind of feel like almost like this is like a really weird like thought process here, but it kind of feels like if they took the Gelfire line and then kind of mixed the aesthetic of the Rebel line.
Yes.
Because if you look at the top section of like the Torrent, for example, it kind of reminds me of like the Rapid Red. And like with its smooth lines, I don't know. Like maybe I'm just weird, but that's kind of what this aesthetically kind of feels like to me.
Nope, I hear you. I mean, obviously the Gelfire line is part of the Pro line, and so there's a lot of visual connection between the two on purpose. But
I think that they obviously needed to try to hit their quotas, right, for price. They clearly made that statement that they were going to try to cut costs where they could. I've made measurements. They've thinned out parts of the shell from 1.6 millimeters down to 1 millimeter. So they have clearly reduced that. But the structure of these shells is quite stout, actually. If you grab one piece of the shell and it flexes, it's in a place that doesn't matter. It's not at a structural point. That's really important. They've done very, very good at again, that sort of limitation that whoever the engineers and designers are behind this have clearly been doing this work, and they have put all that time and energy into it, and it's paying off. And if they are seeing their profit margins, or in this case seeing pro level blasters at the price points that they're putting them, that's also another really big point, because it's not $120 Strife X, it's a $50 pro level blaster. That's way more affordable. That's now down into the in the Nexus realm, and getting closer to like the Aeon Pro realm and stuff, where people were expecting their pro lines to be, and now they are. And if they are able to compete with it, I think that is a very, very good move for Nerf. I think it's going to pay off, because in the same sense of, oh well, I can just get the Nerf one as opposed to Dart Zone or whatever. If it is just people buying into the name, the household name.
Right.
That still gets people into potentially the hobby or into the games or into the whatever. And that's the biggest thing I'm always going to be at. If it gets people into this and gets them into this type of stuff and gets more, the hobby grows more because of it, I think it's a fantastic move all around, like everything. It's a win-win for everyone.
Okay, briefly, thoughts on the new Dart. So when they gave us the first Pro Blaster, they gave us cut down AccuStrikes. This pretty much looks like a worker dart, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Pretty much. I don't think it's going to be like replacing our worker darts anytime soon. It'll be a dart. Maybe I've tended to like Hasbro's like quality control on their darts a little better than like the X-Shot ones, for example. And I know some people have have some issue with the foam on Dart Zone.
Consistently bad versus inconsistently good.
Yeah, so it's like if it's like at least half, if it's like most of the way as accurate as like your Dart Zone dart, sure, I'll pick them up. It's just like keep them a similar cost. If they're most of the way accurate, the foam's a little better, I'll pick them up.
Yeah, I'm curious on obviously once the hobby gets it and people start putting it through its paces, like weights and how it performs with a scar or without a scar, or or B car or whatever. I think people are going to put it through through its paces, and we'll get a little bit of a better read on it as time goes on.
Right. Worth mentioning also while we're talking about this. So as they move to angled talons and as they move away from the old dart, if you're interested in the old Strife X darts and magazines, they're almost out of them on Amazon, and the Strife X has disappeared off Amazon. So if you want them, you should grab them now, because they're gonna go away.
How long has it existed? Like
not very long. Not very long.
Yeah, not long.
I think longer than we think, more than 2 months, but not by a ton. Man, $17.40 for 120 darts.
Also, this is another attempt in this like this John Hasbro just taking this bin of stuff and throwing it out into the wild.
Right.
And which one gets eaten first and the most? All right, we're going to do more of that. None of those?
Yeah.
All right, throw them away. New ones. Fill the bin up with whatever you have,
Yeah.
engineers. And
Yeah.
this also means that I cannot predict which of these is actually going to stick around. It's like, what are they going to put up next? I don't know. Is this going to stay? I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
just a whole bunch of question marks at this point. So, thank you for the gift, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, I don't know if it's going to last a while, but I hope it does.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's going to be anything crazy. I don't think many hobbyists are going to adopt these. They're just going to be look at them and be like, oh, we'll just go with Dart Zone, better value. But I
cannot
definitely
wait
do
to
see
these at the thrift store.
I
the
definitely
brand name
see
is
like
big.
non-hobbyists looking at being like, oh, Nerf,
Yeah.
and it says Pro on it, and it's claiming farther range. It looks nice. I'll pick it up. And then they're like, whoa, this thing hits really hot. That's more where I
Yeah.
see these like falling in, especially because they're really compact, so they can be a competitive price. And
Sure.
like for
Name
example,
brand
the
draw is a
Torrent
big
is
deal.
like almost feels like strategically it's just $10 more than the Maxim, for example, right? It's like the Flywheeler of the line, and it's $10 more than the Maxim, and it's like
Wait,
Nerf
Is
brand.
it a line? Like, can we call two blasters a line?
Yes and no. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's the start of one. Okay, one last final hot take on this that I want to put out there before we move on to our last little bit in the episode here. These two blasters have the wrong names. They're backwards.
I agree. I agree.
They are
Like
backwards.
the sender should be the
Springer.
The
yeah.
semi-auto blaster sends a torrent of darts.
Oh,
down,
I've been
downrange.
referring to the Flywheeler as the Torrent this whole time.
See?
Oh, I've been I
Grimz
knew in my
proving the
head.
point
I
right
knew in
here.
my head which was which, and yet
Ribs. Yeah, proving the point that these names are backwards.
yeah.
Right there.
I mean,
Yeah, like I
Is
hear
it-
Torrent and I think like Tsunami, like the Tsunami cages that we've had, for example. I think spinning wheels. I'm like, oh, flywheel, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, on this point, like the moment I look away from my screen, I've already forgotten those names. Just they are so generic. Like
Yeah.
all of these names. Like maybe
Sender,
maybe there's a misspelling in there somewhere.
I think sender, like it's supposed to make you think like full send.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say
which-
like send
which
it, and so I
don't
think
know-
of
I don't
like
know how
someone chucking
American
like a
that
ball, for
term
example, or
is.
like so I think like
Yeah.
pumping something, pumping a pump action blaster. So it
Yeah.
just feels like they should have the other name of
Give it an interesting name. Do something with it. And
Yeah.
don't just take a generic word and put a Y in there. Just, ugh.
Okay, so to close off this podcast, just a fun little question to answer real quick.
Oh, no.
This episode, we there were 5 standalone hobby designs. I'm not including some things that were sort of like remixes or add-ons, which are all really great products. But just for the simplicity of this question, take a look at these 5 designs and tell me, just even just based on the description, if you haven't seen all 5 of them, if you had to pick one of them to be your only blaster for the next year, which one would you pick? I'm going to start with Springer Perilous by Flip Flop Foam Factory. It's a 300 FPS. It's a pump action primary, but it's 300. It's designed for 300 plus FPS with a smooth prime. The
No.
Quick 2.0 is the new version of Old Fusion Design's Quick. It just improves on it in a bazillion different little ways.
Okay.
The Rainfoe by Daniel Beaver. It is a 3D printed version of an old school style hopper blaster, which also hits in the realm of 300 FPS. We have the Spamf but Mega by Liza Aesthetics, which is a which shoots cut down megas. It's an oversized SBL. Spamf but long but mega, I guess. And then the Yeet Hammer by Spear Makes, a sci-fi looking silly shell launching blaster. Vile, you first. What do you think? Which one are you picking?
Oh, that's tough. Because I like all of them.
They're all very cool, but you got to pick one. You gotta do it quick.
I'd have to go with the Yeet Hammer probably.
Oh, good choice. Why?
I like the aesthetics of it. I like the
Aesthetics are
shell ejecting.
sick.
the aesthetics and the shell ejecting of the Yeet Hammer, because I've liked the Yeet Hammer since it came out, but now that it does the silly shells, it's just even more fun. And I've seen Null's Yeet Hammer that's in the same like color of Shockwave.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. So I'm like, that's such a nice blaster.
Okay. Grim, additional twist. You can't pick one that someone has already picked.
Okay.
Go.
I was gonna say anyways, like, for all intents and purposes, I adore the Yeet Hammer, and it's really cool. And like with a remix, I feel like you could make it look like one of my favorite D2 GLs Forbearance, but it wouldn't be what I go with anyways, because I just can't see myself using shells for a year. Like I can't.
Get out of my presence.
That kind of leaves me between like the range of practicality or nostalgia. If I wanted to go pure practicality, the FLP 5 like immediately looks like right up my alley because it's like bullpup and smooth prime and high performance. But like that old school hobbyist and like running something in a pistol form factor and still owning I already do this with the Rival Fate. I'll run an inline clip. I'm gonna have to go with the Rainfoe. It is a rainbow pistol, but like 3D printed. Like that just appeals to me as an older school hobbyist much more. Like I could use that for a whole year and be proud that I ran it the whole year. You know, with like a hopper and everything else.
Yeah, taking the challenge route. Okay, so Domo, what you have left is Springer Perilous, the 300 FPS pump action primary, the Quick 2.0 by Old Fusion Designs, Flywheeler, and the Spamp but Mega by Liza Aesthetics.
I just made a mistake and Googled Spamp but Mega, and then went to the image search. And I'm gonna close a tab full of porn.
Oh man.
What the hell?
How does that even happen? Well,
does that mean something?
Rule 34, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, just straight up porn. Like, what the hell? No, shells are taken. Shame on you.
I mean, it looks like a Spamp but long, but it is bigger and shoots Mega. That's what it is.
Sure, I guess, but no, that's not interesting. Like, also, I'm not gonna wield anything that's like 300 FPS. What the hell am I gonna do with that? Like, where would you use something that goes 300?
Oh, there's quite a few people running 300 plus FPS games now.
The Rainfoe also does 300, but the way I always see a 300 FPS blaster when I look at that as it'll be a stupid light prime if I down tune it for what I need it for.
Yes, it's so true.
You know, like
it's so true. But admittedly, the difference between the Rainfoe and the Springer Perilous is specifically designed to hit those numbers.
Yeah.
So while I'm sure it would function fine if you tune it down to some degree, it's not meant for that anyway. Like, defeats the purpose of it.
Like, I'm pretty sure with a 300 that falls under gun laws in Germany. So
probably where you are, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like you're going with the Quick.
Yeah, like by elimination, which is pretty sexy. Yes, I give it that. Mm-hmm. It is high tech. It is small. It does what it's supposed to do. So I'm not entirely unhappy.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, I'm not unhappy with it.
Cool. Fair choice. So between the Springer Perilous and the Spamp, they both look sick. I think if I had to stick with one for a year, I would have more fun with the Spamp but Mega. I mostly just because I love the idea of running a ridiculous ammo type just all year that no one else is running. Like, cut down Megas.
Big ammunition is better.
Yeah, would just be so funny to just run nothing but that for an entire year. So that would have to be my choice. My first choice was definitely Yeet Hammer, and my second choice was the Rainfoe.
Rainfoe is just such a very me choice too.
Well, and for the same reason you wanted, just like the ridiculousness of just going to run this weird, old, outdated style of blaster, but in a modern, reliable format all year, and I'm just going to make it work. Love that so much. But I would also be very happy. I would be happy to run any of these, but I would be very happy to run the Spamp but Mega for a year and nothing else. I mean, maybe happy is the wrong word. It would be an interesting experiment for sure.
I mean, also, half Megas are inspired choice. Like, those are fun.
Yes. Yeah, they're really cool. Misplaced Moose has been doing a whole bunch of really cool stuff with
I've been experimenting with those as well, but
No.
Yeah, the list is long.
The list is quite long. But for now, the list that I want, Domo, is the list of things that people should check out if they want to see your work online. Because we've reached the end of this episode, and I want to make sure everybody checks out what you're doing.
Actually, that list is not that long. Let's be real here. Like, go to my Etsy shop, gencomegaworks.etsy.com. You can also see what else I do on wildwestsci-fi.net. Link in the description, as they say. I'm probably also on Instagram under Domochevsky, because Domochevsky was taken for some reason. Terrible. Yeah, we will have all those links down in the description, of course. Another place you can catch Domochevsky is in Vile's streams on Fridays and Saturdays.
True.
Sometimes yes.
Sometimes yes. Sometimes Domo's trying to help me with my 3D modeling is stuff that I do on streams, which I'll probably be doing if you're listening to this on Saturday or
Friday or Saturday, right? Yeah. Sometimes I'm there. Other times I have better things to do.
Grimz, do you have anything to drop right now? I know you're kind of busy with some other stuff.
Nothing in particular.
Just being a core part of the FNC team. And I'm just gonna talk about my band again really quick. Our 3-track EP should be on all the streaming services soon, so keep an eye out for that. The Steps, spelled like the little mountains.
Oh, we are now teasing things. All right.
Yep.
Look forward to the 9th micro reshirt.
I've seen it. I've seen images, and it looks phenomenal. Right. I'm just going to say that right now.
Yeah. It is, again, trying out mechanics, this time with a 3-dot inline clip. And
it's freaking cool. I'm just going to say it right now. It looks freaking cool. I have to have it.
Yeah.
All right, people. You heard it here first, folks. Look out for Reshell number 9. Coming to an Etsy store near you soon.
Possibly, yes. Yes, I'm also going to license it out to the usual suspects.
Of course.
Which has been good to me,
Yeah.
It has worked.
Cool. And with that, I think we have casted a pod. Thank you so much for joining us, Domo. This was really great. Thanks for being a good sport with our trivia game. And listeners, thank you so much. Be sure to check out Ko-Fi, merch, blah, 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 all that stuff. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Until sometime.
Until sometime.
Until
sometime.
Yes, I'm also the guy who made Grim's avatar in the videos.
Yes.
Oh yeah, we probably could have talked about that, but we didn't.
Yeah, we did. No.
It is
fine.
At the very least listed in every description.
True.
Did you make note of that?
It is. Domo always gets credit for that. I don't know why I didn't think about that. It's raining extremely hard here, and I could lose power any second. So, thanks for listening. Bye.
Yeah.
Couldn't happen to me. I live in a real house.
Wow. Rude. Incredibly
And of course, that shade.
Incredibly rude.